My name is Nyah Beck. People call me Bingy. I'm the founder of the Black Gaming Society, and our mission is to empower Black gamers. I primarily host different workshops with youth and young professionals to introduce them into the world of gaming and esports. I'm also currently attending Cal State Long Beach, getting my master's in sports management, making it applicable to esports as much as possible.
Okay.
In the meantime of me pursuing the degree, I also am competing on their varsity Overwatch team outside of class. I'm spending a lot of time being good at Overwatch.
How did you figure out that you were good at Overwatch for one? But like just gaming in general, like what was sort of your gaming background? Like as you growing up, what were you playing?
I've been gaming my entire life. I just saw some pictures of me playing with my dad and my uncle. Well, playing
Yeah.
gave me like unplugged
Yeah.
game controller, and I
Mhm.
was thinking I was playing just like them, but they were playing against each other. But
Yeah.
uh, between the two of them, since I was like 2, 3 years old, like I was just fascinated by, consoles and kind of these virtual worlds. As I got older, it progressed and I was able to get my own or shared family consoles. And then I got my own DS and stuff. But I think one of the most significant points is when I turned 13 and I got my first gaming laptop, my first laptop, because gaming
Mhm.
laptops were like several thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than how accessible they are today. I got a laptop when I was 13 and that really opened the world up for me to do online gaming. I did previously like on Club Penguin or stuff with my friends in elementary school, but school is when I got my first personal computer. So the limits were a little bit least.
Yeah, they
I had to be mindful of how much time I was spending so I could
mhm.
ensure that going to school.
Yeah.
My mom cared that I was up till, 7:59 playing games all night. I had to
Mhm.
go to school at 8 AM. I pretty much from that point on, I will shout out I played Wizard 101. But I did spend a lot of time then getting into more competitive kind of things. I ended up being like a double warlord. I had like the maximum rank times 2
Okay.
on that even like, was one of like the top competitors.
Yeah.
Me and my friend, who I still know to this day, even met him recently in real life this year, would be grinding and trying to like theory craft like the best builds and
Mhm.
just spending a lot of time of how to do the best strat that we could. And that was so much fun to me. From that point on, in other games that I tried, I wanted to do the same thing, compete or, kind of find these optimized strategies and kind of be pushing towards the tail end of the competitive ladder. I also made that transition into Guild Wars 2, which is an MMO. So these are not FPSs,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
series of MMOs, but or online game. But Guild Wars 2 is also kind of that transition of taking it further. Then I was commanding different guilds and
Mhm.
different squads of, 40, 50 people plus part of the community in a different way of pushing us through massive world events together and raids. There was also player versus player, world
Mhm.
versus and other different just modalities, but I was leading guilds at like 14, 15 years old,
Okay. Yeah.
facilitating and commanding these groups of people, largely adult men, push us through a variety of different content. In 2016, 2017, some of my officers in my guild were like, hey, let's maybe check out this game called Overwatch together. Like some of us got beta access and let's check it out. And I was like, I've never done an FPS. I don't know the next thing about shooting games, but
Mhm.
it was through them that I was able to be like, okay, I'll try it out with you. And I fell in love with
Yeah.
Overwatch, and the rest is kind of history. I, I will say I did start out silver when I played Diva and Tank, and Overwatch was a radically different game
Yeah,
back
I was
then.
going that came out what, 2016?
16, yeah,
Yeah.
17. I kinda came in, like, a little bit later, like, season 2, season 3 is when I really was like, "Okay, this is my personal account
Mm.
I'm starting," and, yeah, like, there was no role queue or nothing, not how bad it kinda used to be before those locks were in place. It was kind of not fun, but also I was obsessed. I started climbing from silver to diamond within the season that I started. And, I was feeling, but then I got into support. As the game had evolved, so did I. And I think more recently, like in 2023, 2024, is when I finally hit GM1. All the ranks shifted with
Mhm.
Overwatch. I hit GM1 and I was on the top 500 ladder for several seasons. Kiriko is now my main character that I play. As that was the beginning of my competitive career. I got picked up for some little like teams here and there and like
Mhm.
scrimmages. I was kind of like a free agent for a period of time, summer of like 2022, 2023, and just kind of like playing with different teams and stuff like that. The meta was not the best at that time. They were putting me on so much Baptiste, and I hated that. Much prefer Kiriko or Ilari or people that did damage. Like, it's a little bit different, a little bit harder.
I know Overwatch, but I'm not a big Overwatch player, but I've interviewed a few people that play Overwatch, Call of Duty, or Fortnite, and those games obviously have their differences, but from a competitive standpoint, they're virtually the same. You have different game types, different characters, different ways of strategy and things like that. Would you say that your transition, like going from somebody who started out, some people would consider that starting a little late. Some people start from the very beginning and then get very good. Some people can just jump in. A lot of it is certain traits that you would have anyway outside of the game. So hand-eye coordination or being able to process information, like being able to look at the map and know where you're about to go before, you don't have to really think about it, things like that. How hard or difficult would you say that transition was from getting from the early ranks to being top 500 and being able to say, I actually am good at the game now?
That's a big loaded. I'd always been good at this game. However, I firmly believe, just from my experience, as a Black woman, I was not really allowed or encouraged or supported to play at these highest levels. I was not even given a chance to try out. People would actively like witch hunt me. People would actively queue against me, even if I
Mhm.
wasn't streaming to throw my games, to toss them and
Hmm.
hurl different insults, different targeted attacks against me or threats against me, completely unrelated to the game, but in the game and clearly halting my progress. On top of the games that weren't affected by that, I'm born and raised in LA.
Mhm.
Playing on the LA servers, but at the time of 2017 through 2020, the heart of the Overwatch League was here. Every other
Hmm.
game, I'm getting in matches with owl level players and owl level queues, Overwatch League, where people were literally like 4,700 and my rank was 4,000. These people would be like two, 300, or, like just several hundred ranks. And like at this kind of level, from like 4K onward, those hundreds or even those 50s, like points differences were pulling hairs of like actual skill differences. Like
Yeah.
someone 4,000 is not the same as someone that's even 4,200 or 4,400. People don't understand and would just be like, oh, it's the same. But it's not like how the rest of the ladder is structured. If you're gold, everybody's kind of gold and not the same. And if you're 2,700 versus 2,400, you're probably balanced rank wise, higher end. It did make a difference. And me queuing into all the Overwatch League people, these people are paid to do this and play together full time. I'm
Yeah.
still a student trying to navigate college life. I'm coaching myself or paying people independently who are willing to help me. It was different, but I started late and now I'm in grad school. A large part of it is just that it was not an inclusive environment for me and actively like people were in my way preventing me from being on the team because who would want a black person, a black girl on their team? And I had moments where people did say these kinds of things. A large part of my journey is through collegiate esports as well. That was a safer and more accessible league for me to participate in undergrad at Irvine. That was not the case. I was still kind of met, not to the extremities, but still very much a lot of the same barriers I was facing online with strangers. Was I kind of having amongst my own peers at the university? Like I was just really not, it was a little bit hostile for me to participate in. And apart from, just kind of not being included into the space, I just kind of had to find my own way. They would nitpick me further, like, oh, well, you're good, but you're not this good or whatever. But I feel like a lot of it kind of disregarded, like, these people are really antagonizing me like every other match. Again, like the whole active pursuance of like, oh, nice streaming, we're gonna go throw her games. And like I would have people who would like four stack against me and be like, hate this girl because she's a girl and girls are trash and they deserve to go back to the kitchen. Just dumb stuff. But
Yeah.
the whole community was kind of centered around approving that kind of behavior.
Mhm.
And for me to be the antithesis of what's accepted just made it easy for them. But nonetheless, I still was in those matches and
Right.
still seeing my rank and was able to even surpass it, just with different strategies. And I think also like a level of like personal growth and maturity. I know back when I was younger, like 18, 19, even 20, those things would really frustrate me. I would internalize it a lot and get really sad, and it would affect my gameplay. Maybe I would get really mad at people or retaliate and feed into that kind of behavior. But when I graduated UCI and kind of had nothing to lose, but also achievements to stand on and back me up, people hurling those things, it was like, girl, you have nothing going for you. Like, that's why you're doing this. You're hurting people online behind this shield of anonymity because you probably don't do anything else with your life. I learned to think about that and reassure myself. I graduated from a top 10 university. I have my own startup. I have friends. I have family that love and support me and
Mhm.
are rooting for me to be good at this game. How can I honor them and let all of those things wash off from me? A lot of it was maybe an age thing, but I was able to continue to push forward. And then I hit the maximum rank and was among the top 500 and honestly, really the top 250. But, it was really cool.
That's dope. You said you doing sports management, right? So within doing that, how does that tie into the gaming? I know gaming is becoming more part of curriculums and stuff like that. How are you sort of, taking that and gonna use it for, the gaming side?
Yeah, so pretty much every opportunity I've had to do assignments and things like that, I related to esport. I will say my whole decision making behind pursuing this degree, I did get into LMU's law school and
Mhm.
stuff. My undergraduate degrees in anthropology. So it's like very random kind of
Yeah.
sound. It makes sense to me, and I, you know, am happy with how I settled because I knew I didn't want to be a lawyer.
Mhm.
But what I want to do is like be in esports or on collegiate esports side, or still pursue like my vessel through my organization, my startup. Ultimately, I settled with sports management because there's so many parallels to what esports wants to accomplish that is already successful and been thriving for decades within traditional sports. As esports has evolved, even in just the time I've attended college, students earn scholarships, fund their way through school, earn internship credits, and develop professional skills like leadership, different like actual skills of like graphic design or
Mhm.
streaming, things like that. Clearly, that's been a way to convince K through 12, high school and college to integrate it into their curriculum. But there is no standardization of how these programs should be implemented. How can we get the schools to work together?
Mhm.
To me, I'm just sitting here thinking like people who do softball, football, track, and field, there's school, it's the same thing, but we're refusing to put two and two together. And it's a lot of bureaucracy from an academic standpoint. The administrators maybe don't fully understand what esports is, it can do for students, and how it
Right.
can really bring them full circle to wanting to attend their classes and do well so they have access to these extracurricular activities. They just don't get it. And it's kind of just what it is because it's not of their generation, it's not of their time. And how could you understand it if you've never been exposed to it except through the lens of your grandchildren or your nieces and nephews? It's different to have lived it your whole life than to hop on the bandwagon last second kind of
Mm.
thing.
Yeah.
So just because it's up and popping. But
Mhm.
the sports management stuff, again, traditional sports like has these established systems, and I think a lot of these bigger things won't happen immediately in December when we graduate, but in the future, as this stuff gets bigger, we have stadiums that are dedicated to traditional sports like SoFi, Intuit, BMO, etc. Like all these different places that are dedicated spaces for athletes, concerts, etc. to like run and facilitate their events at. I feel like there's a missed opportunity for esports to be involved in that. And there's just a lot, even outside of academia, it's still bureaucracy of how the publisher should be involved, if external third party leagues should be running these kinds of things outside of the game,
Mm,
or who should be the authority over how the competitive landscape is run. These are all kind of big questions. And I know as a fan, you can see when there's inconsistency or a failure to fully understand the needs of the fan, the players, and the league. A lot of what I'm learning in my classes is the same kinds of conversations that happen for the NFL and the NBA and the business side of these things. Sports and entertainment is a luxury. And so to maintain, even in the amidst recessions and, economic kind of turmoil and
mhm,
downfall, these things aren't really going anywhere. However, there is a point of when you have to recognize that these are privileges for people to enjoy. So how can you make it the most meaningful and fruitful experience that people want to spend their money on or their time on, which is even more valuable, a finite thing that we have. I just think that those are like questions that I don't want to say that people don't consider, because I don't want to discredit maybe the work that people are kind of doing, but I do
mhm,
there is a lack of understanding between all of these different moving parts. My goal with this degree is to be the stamp of, I have the education and familiarity with this specific field, like I'm not just getting a master's in
mhm.
basket weaving, but like I do have validity to hopefully be in the room that has these conversations of building out an actual foundation for the success of all of these games, regardless of if it's Rocket League, League of Legends, Valorant, Overwatch, etc., or whatever. I hope in a lot of the failures that we've seen so far through the Overwatch League and successes of like, Riot and League of Legends and Valorant have kind of taken. They're still not perfect, but they are a lot closer. I feel like being able to assess all of these different things can hopefully find some kind of thread and through line to not just ground, but then ensure longevity for all of us and profitability from the owners and the players that are participants in this. It's a very volatile space right now. I don't think it has to be, given how popular it is. It is gaming and esports is more popular than film and TV, music, like combined. And I feel like it's not really being capitalized on by mainstream as much as it could be. A lot of it is just because there is a lot of we should do it this way. And it's just like that's not gonna get us up here. So these are just things I think about or hear from the different panels and conferences that I get to attend through my startup and stuff as I've been navigating the collegiate and more academic side as a student and player, and in some ways a teacher, because I do summer camps and different activities with youth in schools to certain capacities.
Okay.
Um, you know, I don't like formally have classes, but I've guest lectured and stuff for
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
universities and things. But as I've been in the middle of all of these different things, I am really thankful to see and experience all these different kinds of things at once. I think it's hopefully shaping me up to be that like I don't want to say expert, but that resource for people. I don't want to like self-proclaim expert.
Mm, yeah.
Definitely for sure, like, a knowledge source for this experience. And again, I'm living it at this time. I do have peers and mentors in the space who have similar orgs or run the different academic departments for gaming
Mhm,
and at universities. I love all of them and really appreciate all of their wisdom and support of me. I just feel like I'm in like a dynamic place of like I get to pull knowledge from them, but as someone who's living it currently and just I like, when I went to UCI was the only public university that had an esports program. But in the
mm,
time I transferred there and graduated. Now there's hundreds and
Yeah.
upwards of thousands of schools that do this. But at the time in 2016, 2017, UCI was my only option. So that was the goal. It was like
Yeah.
make it to that school at all. So, like things have already kind of rapidly transformed in just like the 6 years or so that we've been doing this. In the next 6 years, are we still going to be in the same place? I feel like it's just chaos,
Yeah.
honestly. I want to be reshaping the next 6 year sports and like 2050 kind of thing. I'm learning, about ticketing and sales and whatever, and
Mhm.
like the facilities of stadiums. That knowledge will be of use to me at some point, but it's not like the be all end all. Like I'm one of almost 70 students in my cohort. I'm the only one that's talking about esports and gaming. And, I profess it like every class we get and we meet a new professor and they don't know what the heck I'm talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. They're like, oh yeah, we know so and so who does that. But, I'm the president of the galaxy and I've been here for 50 years, which is wonderful. But I just always feel like I'm speaking a totally different language. My desire isn't, oh, I'm a coach and I played soccer my whole life and I want to go do baseball or whatever. I'm definitely in my own world over here. But
Okay.
it will make sense eventually. So,
Talk a little bit about your startup
oh, sure.
and give us a rundown of how you started it and what it is.
Yeah, sure. I touched on the problems I was facing, right? Going back to UCI and the lack of diversity and inclusion in that space. The purpose of me going to that university was to participate in the gaming stuff, and that just didn't come to fruition. I was a senior in 2022, and I only had one class left to take. But I was like, the whole reason I came to this school was to do the gaming stuff. At that point, I had nothing on my resume that related to this. If I wanted to work in esports, nobody would hire me. They were like, "What do you do? Can't do anything." So
Hmm.
get out of our face, right? Knew it was a hyper competitive environment. So even before I graduated, right, like I was just like, that is not gonna work. And I'll also mention, like, I did UCI is a predominantly, like, Asian university, so there was, like, 37 or so, pretty much, like, 40,000 students. There was less than 1,000 Black students combined for both graduate and undergraduate, so we were a minority and hyper visible on that campus. I was aware of my standings as a student as I was navigating the space and people were supporting me or knew that I was really good at Overwatch. I would have tons of students, particularly Black students, come to me and say, "Oh, I see you involved in the esports space. What can I do to join you or be part of it as well?" And I would have to bear the burden of, okay, I'm not actually involved in the space like you think
Yeah.
I may be in their pictures, I may be using their advertisements for the university, but I'm not actually participating in their programming or part of their team or staff that keeps the ball kind of going. And not only was that things of like my own failures that I internalized of like I wasn't good enough or, they didn't want me and things like that,
Yeah.
but I had to face the fact of like, people are looking up to me and I'm not living the life they think I am. I can't help them. And largely that I really couldn't help them because I couldn't even help myself.
Yeah.
So I confided in a peer and, just expressed like that frustration and that heartbreak. And I was like, I think I want to make my own thing. Like, I'm so sick and tired of deferring to like, I can't help you because I can't help myself. That just bad answer. I wanted to, you know what? We know, and, regardless, we know what they were going to do. Right. And
Mm.
I knew for me, I could do something about it. And I could create this space for myself that it would be radically inclusive and radically supportive of all students that wanted to participate in this and maybe just didn't have that opportunity because of how competitive and exclusionary that campus entity is. I started my own student organization from scratch, was hyper involved in other programs on campus and different spaces on campus that, again, just kind of like the guild leading kind of stuff. I was like, I can do this, but I can also do it for what I really care about, which is gaming. So took all of those different things and the different successes that I had, and I created this organization. I mentioned in my intro that the Black Gaming Society, our mission is to empower Black gamers, and that's
Mhm.
deliberate because a lot of my journey has been shadowed by experiences or interactions that have told me to be ashamed, embarrassed, or that I'm less than because of my interest and involvement in this pastime and this hobby. And I wanted to reclaim that narrative by choosing to be empowered instead and just radically embrace it, not be ashamed of who I am. If I was not doing gaming, if I didn't build my PC, if I didn't cosplay, I even just did my first cosplay from scratch at DreamCon this year. I don't know who I would be. I cannot take care of plants. I don't really draw or nothing. I am a gamer. Like if I was not, even competing at the highest level, I don't know what I would be doing. This is just who I am. And my whole idea is that, that could mean many different things. DreamCon to me, I'll just highlight that for a moment. If anybody's unfamiliar, like REC World, they're like Black content creators who also kind of blend the world of gaming and anime together, but through they're a group of Black kids who grew up in Texas who make skits about these things, its own subculture. And I'm sure if y'all watching this, you probably are familiar with it. But to me, that space, the first time I attended it was last year in Austin, and I couldn't help but feel emotional. That convention is the embodiment of empowered Black nerds, gamers,
Mhm.
anime fans, photographers, other
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, musicians, the entirety of the con itself is an empowered Black space. Through my community, I want to create that same thing, but also be able to support people who want to get into this field. And again, it's hyper competitive. Not only do you have to have all of the qualifications to be a standout candidate, but then there's the other barriers of like, you'll probably be the only Black person in that room or field. And that comes with a whole host of challenges of trying to navigate that space and represent the entirety of our community vessel, right? And so that's also again that same turmoil of like I can't be the ambassador for everything because I don't represent all Black people,
Right.
So
Yeah.
I want to have this community where people can express and navigate those things, find peers to chat about those things, look for jobs and the whole nine for all of it. But starting from somewhere and like this industry in itself, even though I did complain about it and throw shade at it, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So I know I have my critiques of it, and I'm just a graduate student, but I am a fan of this thing. The main thing is that I just want my org to be a community for all of these different things. As the industry is rapidly developing into this multi-billion-dollar thing, what I don't want is for Black and brown people and women and femme identified people to be left behind and left out of the conversation as we historically have been. And way after the fact, if I could do anything in my power to kind of like be that vessel of like, hey kid, I had to learn all of this from scratch. I couldn't just Google, oh, what is esports? And a million things will come up and there's a million different programs and
Right.
makers that are dedicated to this. Even my thing in sports management, right? I'm here with people who are at the cream of the crop of sports and entertainment, right?
Mhm.
Like one of the top three sports management programs in the world, but they don't know what esports every time.
Yeah.
I them
Yeah.
like are always like, okay, yeah, like we have like an intern of a person that might know what that is, but like, girl, we can't help you. It's
Mhm.
still just in its infancy, which is fine. I feel like sitting amongst them, it's a missed opportunity. They give us advice to look at different newsletters and sign up for different like news boards or whatever for to follow and be up to speed about sports news and things in that world. But a
Mhm.
lot of headlines I see are, oh my God, NBA and NFL viewership hemorrhaging, don't know how to attract Gen Z audience, and oh, going to streaming like every other day, at least once a week. One of these things is hemorrhaging viewers and hemorrhaging funding and cutting this and cutting that because they're dying like high key. No shame, but it's just me and my personal opinion in my room. I just feel like sports for all of maybe its flaws, you don't see that. You don't see that it's losing money except for the times that like Overwatch League, yes, they lost money and they did this, but they were rooted in the wrong thing. They really eliminated the fan experience and the viewership experience. And so
Mhm.
that's why the Overwatch League fail because we're so driven on profits. It's a little bit more personal for me because I was so invested in that. As a viewer, as a fan, I wanted to work in that space, but it crumbled before I had that opportunity. People got blinded by the big dollar signs being thrown around, letting it fail, and just sitting with that money set us back. That was an opportunity where, the players had contracts, the players had benefits, the players had long sustainability, and it was a radical thing for that to happen for Blizzard, and it did shape the rest of the industry to follow suit and ensuring that their players are protected and these franchises are supported. I hope my organization can be involved in all of this and share these things and not just be on a soapbox in my room. What I have to say has value and can hopefully maybe shape the future of this industry again if we look into what esports will look like in the next 25 years. Hopefully, I'll be a part of that. Those are my big ambitions and like things that come from my org. But on a small scale, I do workshops with other local nonprofits introducing youth. I primarily work with Peace for Kids, a program in South LA for foster youth. I also work with Better Youth, also in South LA at the Beehive. They have a cross section for like gaming, animation, and film, like apprenticeship programs.
Mm,
Have subbed in for their gaming programs here and there. I talk about my journey in navigating collegiate esports and, really talk with the kids about like, I earned scholarships for both my undergraduate and graduate degree to fund my education
yeah,
playing this game. And through my leadership in my own student organization, I've earned a lot of accolades. I've been able to not only satisfy my mom by pursuing my education, but I've been able to really hammer in like this niche, or at least for now, like niche interest and capitalize off of it and still turn it around to be beneficial for my education. And that's only opened even more doors for me. Even if gaming disappeared tomorrow, which I don't think it will, like I could still, because of the security of my degree, pivot to somewhere else. And through navigating this space, I can transition to anywhere else. So hopefully, I'll still have a job, even if
yeah,
all of this were to disappear tomorrow.
yeah.
That's like one of the main things that my mom is always worried about, especially as a Black woman. And the kids that I work with come from marginalized backgrounds, from foster youth or system involved. And other things like that. It doesn't have to be the end of the world for them. It is challenging, but me, her, and our family are kind of a testament to like we can turn this around and you can still be a successful adult and have a stable and secure life, find success and be happy. Those are things that I do more hands on. In the couple weeks, I think like 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be starting a summer camp with some girls at the Boys and Girls Club in
Okay,
partnership Black Collegiate Gaming Association. So shout
okay.
out Keisha. And the LA Sparks. So that's like a cool thing for me because I'm
Oh,
like,
dope. Yeah.
it's gaming and sports. So go me. But I piloted it last year, but this year I'm doing it entirely on my own and getting to do some new and cool things. I'm really looking forward to meeting the girls. So that's just kind of where we're at.
Give people a rundown of how they can find this stuff, like, as far as, like, socials, as far as, like, events, if you have any.
Yeah, sure. So you can follow me or you can follow the Black Gaming Society first at bgxs.ebg. So bgxs.ebg. But
Okay.
that's Black Gaming Society, Empower Black Gamers. And that's our tag on Instagram. I do have like Twitter and TikTok and Twitch and like all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But I utilize mostly the Instagram because I do a lot of collaboration with my personal posts.
Okay.
So my personal thing is at Nyah B. So my name, NYAHB. Again, I earn a lot of awards and different things and go to different conventions. So I try to do collaboration posts for that. But
Okay.
on both, you'll find the link tree to the Black Gaming Society. We have a Discord as well that I'm trying to revive, y'all. As I've transitioned from university to this independent startup, uh,
Mhm.
there's been some challenges with that. But as I like, things are on the rise for me. So I'm hopefully gonna be. I don't want to say hiring because that entails I'll be able to pay somebody, but looking for people to support me in growing my team. Right now is just me. If I'm looking for people to help me with running the Discord and social media, I'd like to get more active and like I was saying, other platforms like to do different content and shout
Right.
outs. For now, you'll see it, I do post a little bit, but I post a lot more. I just am by myself, so I have a limit to what I can do. But
Yeah.
again, vgxs.evg, and our link tree is there that has all the other things that you can find us on. And yeah, I post there. If you want to watch me compete with my team, and I don't think I'll be competing anymore just because I
Huh.
wrap up my degree this fall. I think I'm going to be locked in on my capstone. I might try out still, but I think I might shift more to managing a team instead, which I've been doing. You can follow my Twitch at Binghisan, so Binghisan on Twitch. I'll probably pick back up closer to the fall time, but yeah, so that's a little bit
Okay.
of where you can follow me.
Dope.